Welcome to Ziflow's Winter 2025 Product Release Webinar. As you know, if you've ever attended one of our webinars before, we have separated our current features or future features into 5 core themes. You're definitely going to want to stick around for that last theme. Very exciting stuff. If this was a menu at an Asian restaurant, there'd be 3 spice levels next to those AI-powered automated creator reviews. In fact, we'll be announcing an exciting new training initiatives at the end of this webinar. I'm Erik. I am the head of product marketing for Ziflow, and I'm so excited to be joined by 2 gentlemen. On that slide to the immediate left, my friend Mike. You may recognize him. You may have met with him before, whether it be here at Ziflow or when he was working at Lumen Industries. Although he may not recognize you, he was on the severed floor at the time. Mike, introduce yourself. Tell them what you do and where you are in the world.
Yeah, thanks for joining today, everyone. So I'm a senior solutions engineer here at Ziflow. If you've gone through the procurement process with us in the past 3 years, there's a pretty good chance we've had the opportunity to speak. Coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio, and I'm excited to show you a little bit of what we've done over the past few months to enhance the platform.
To the right of me on this slide is a very good friend of mine, and he is just a genuinely wonderful person. If you ever see him in person, just don't make any 51st state jokes. John, tell him who you are and where you're dialing in from.
Hi, everyone. John Stetic here. I'm the Chief Product Officer and lead the product and design and support team at Ziflow, and I am dialing in from Toronto, Canada. Super excited to be able to show you guys what's coming next in our product roadmap.
Now let's jump into our first theme, which is a phrase that you have probably seen before if you've attended one of our webinars over these past 18 months. See everything, approve anything. It's kind of our tagline here at Ziflow for a major initiative that we've been working on, which is Project Mosaic. Now, Project Mosaic, as we go through and explain what it is we're talking about here, Project Mosaic was designed, or the initiative is designed to make it easier for you and your teams to manage and review sets of proofs, enable unique versions and approvals on assets in a group, and streamline notifications for multi-proof projects. Those were our 3 core tenets, the 3-legged stool for which Project Mosaic sits upon. And we've done a lot of stuff over these past 12 months, releasing great features to you, including some of these. First things first, this was gallery view. So the ability to view collections of assets, all from within a familiar Ziflow's proof viewer environment. The ability to review assets and quickly switch between proofs. Gallery view facilitates that. Review a proof and move on to the next thing. The other thing gallery view also facilitates is being able to see more information about a proof or a multitude of proofs very quickly and easily through appearance and metadata settings, so you can customize the look and feel of each of those cards and see proof status, deadline, last activity, and so much more just quickly at a glance. Another initiative that we really have been working on for quite some time is improving ease of access to these tools. So you can now send a gallery view or a folder token in custom messages. We've dropped little review buttons all over the product. So it makes it easier for you to not just access Proof Viewer, but access Gallery View within Proof Viewer. So you can manage and view a multitude of assets all basically at the same time. So as we start this section, Mike, why don't we switch over to showing a little bit of the product here. Let's talk through some of the other changes we have made that have been born from this Project Mosaic initiative.
Yeah, Erik. And so most of the changes that have come recently have really been around just the user interface and making it easier for you to navigate and find the proofs that are most relevant to you. Up until now, Gallery View only allowed sorting by proof name or proof creation date. But with the recent release, you now have the ability to organize proofs based on your decision status. So bring a little more clarity and control to your workflow. And that sorts from decision pending all the way down to, you're not even a reviewer on this proof. So if I click up left, I see some options. I can now switch this up just to get whatever's most relevant for me there. Really useful if we've got a high volume of content in here.
And with that meta information, there's a world where we could be sorting on a whole host of details about your proofs, but this is really our first foray into sorting on something other than, proof creation date or things of that nature.
Yeah.
Love it. Now, I can actually see within this gallery view that you're included on actually two different stages. We've added that little UI update to show that what your status is if you have been included on a multitude of stages within a proof.
Yeah, not uncommon to be on two stages within the workflow. Maybe I'm in the initial design stage, later on I'm communicating with the client or whatever it is. You have a lot of options for what is shown actually on the board, whether it's custom property information or decision information. And if there is an instance where you are on two stages of the workflow, that will be brought right to your attention, or 3 or 4 stages, as well as icons around what your decisions are up to this point.
The rise of tools like Miro and Mural, these sort of virtual whiteboards, got us thinking within the Skunk Works section of Ziflow as we were developing Project Mosaic. Gallery view is great. You can see a data about those proofs. You can access those proofs very quickly just by clicking in and seeing those in Proof Viewer. But what if you could display those proofs almost in a loose and somewhat unstructured canvas-like environment? Those of you who have been a part of our Project Mosaic early access program have likely been able to kick the tires on something we were colloquially referring to as board view, because it was like a virtual whiteboard. Well, we have now released it to public preview and under a new name called Canvas View. No more button at the top of the screen. Now you can access it directly from within Gallery View. Mike, let's show folks how they can access Canvas View directly from Proof Viewer's Gallery View.
Yeah, it used to be just right up top. You'd hit that board view if you had the preview version before. Now, anybody, whether you're on Pro, Enterprise, a business plan, when you're in here in the gallery view, you just go to view mode and flip over to Canvas, and you're now going to be able to see all these proofs on the same page. There's options for different layouts as well as how you want this presented. And now it's readily available whether you're reviewing a batch of assets from a campaign or maybe a whole bunch of different layouts of a web banner, all right within the browser for you.
See, the thing I love most about this, Mike, is that we not only allow you to sort by, size or a whole host of other options, adjust the scaling and the layout direction, but then we've also created, based on user feedback, again, this is all born from our early access program, we've created basically some presets so that layout type will customize those other drop-down menus based on what you perceive or what we perceive your ideal use case to be.
Yeah, it's really easy to get there. I mean, and when you're in this, you kind of make this layout set, you're good to go to start reviewing. And all you do is just click into the proof you want to change and start making comments or, hopefully approving it.
So let's say for the sake of argument, you're in an agency-like environment. You can put Canvas View right on the big board, right on the big TV in your conference room. You can look at all of the assets that have been contained within a campaign. Or if you work on a website development team and you're putting together some demand generation assets and you want to see all of those assets, like Mike just showed, in various different formats and whatnot, you can do that as well. And just like Gallery View, clicking into any one of these assets will pull up the proof viewer on the right-hand side, sort of slide it in from the right, and you'll be able to access it. Let's say, for example, there's a video down there, Mike. Why don't you click on that and show us that you can? This is just like proof viewer.
Just like proof viewer, you click in, I've got the video markup, I can make my decision, add comments, and I'll note while I am in here, people forget their keyboard shortcuts throughout Ziflow. I know we had a little thing pop up in the proof viewer a couple weeks ago. We did also release recently the ability to go in and hold shift and skip by 15 seconds on a video timeline, along with JKL and controller command alt D to make comments.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, as I mentioned at the top of our see everything, approve anything conversation, one of the biggest, probably the third leg of the stool that we really want to address is the ability to streamline notifications for multi-proof projects. Let me turn the microphone over to John, who's going to talk about one of the last big initiatives to come out of the Project Mosaic project. John.
Thanks, Erik. So when we think about this is all about working with sets of proofs. And I know there was a question asked, Mike, when you were displaying on the Canvas view, is this just a single proof or multiple proofs? It was actually each individual asset in its own proof. And so the concept behind Project Mosaic and this gallery view feature and Canvas view feature and some other areas that we're working on in this final phase of Project Mosaic is allow you to be able to essentially have asset by asset level approval, where you can treat a whole set or a group of proofs together as one thing. And that's where we're going here, to be able to allow you to have more effortless navigation to drive your reviewers into either a gallery view or a canvas view of their proofs. So if you're reviewing a set of assets that are multivariants or maybe multi-pages in a document, each of those individual pages or assets can actually be reviewed and approved and versioned individually. So by being able to allow you to drive your reviewers to that, they get access to this experience in a much more effective way. So any proof that is part of a group, when they click on an email to go review that, it will take them actually into the Canvas or gallery view experience, depending on how you configure it. So then they can actually interact across multiple proofs. The other piece too is about aggregating those notifications. So if things happen across a project or across multiple proofs that are all connected together, we're going to send out an hourly or a daily digest, however you have that set up, that will have all the information related to the proofs that are all collected together. So think of it as sort of a way to group together a set of proofs, manage them together effectively, and be able to have your users get notified about those effectively too. So some exciting updates that are actually happening within this project. And with that, if we go on to the next slide, we'd love to actually get some input from you on this final phase around how do you really want to organize and aggregate your groups of proofs? And then how do you want to direct reviewers to work with these groups of proofs? So here's a QR code. If you want to scan it now, great. It'll also be in a follow-up email where we'd love to have you join one of our one-on-one research sessions. We've got a few prototypes we'd like to walk you through, and we'd love to get some exact feedback on it. So please do reach out to us and join in on the research and help shape this last phase of Project Mosaic.
Awesome. We are so happy, so thrilled, in fact, to work with a whole host of customers that use Ziflow as part of their creative process. It operates independently as a piece of software that facilitates review and approval of all of their creative assets. We also work with a subset of customers that plug Ziflow into their project management tools. So whether it be Asana, ClickUp, Jira, Basecamp, Wrike, Trello, you name it, we have integrations that are built specifically for those teams that use those project management tools. Over these past 6 to 12 months, we've had some exciting opportunities to really dive a little bit deeper into one of those project management tools, just based on the flexibility of their development platform and our ability to sort of get our hands dirty in there, and that is Monday.com. To the point now where we can truly say that we have the absolute best online proofing platform for Monday.com, creating a seamless collaborative proofing experience for those users. And in fact, Monday.com has officially made that the case. We are now the official online proofing add-on for Monday.com, as announced last week during their partner summit. So if you are planning to purchase Monday.com for your organization, you can ask your Monday.com account representative about Ziflow and have them include Ziflow and our official add-on in your package. But if you're an existing Monday.com user, you can connect with a Ziflow Solutions consultant and get set up on one of our Enterprise or Pro plans. And if you're both a Monday.com user and a Ziflow user and you're within the sound of my voice, reach out to your customer success team, because the features that we're about to show you will be available to you on our Pro and Enterprise plans. All right, that's some fanfare. Yeah, we're stoked. Mike, let's talk a little bit more about what this actually looks like for a creative operations person who is engaging with Monday.com using the integration with Ziflow.
Yeah, and what this integration allows us to do is really go through and proof and use the project management tool and put them together as an end-to-end process. So we'll see a few things in the next couple minutes. We'll start off just with what the in-app experience inside of Monday.com is, and then we're going to take a look at how it's all powered, because the way this is now being set up is also going to start trickling off into other project management tools in a way that we can easily set up those applications to integrate with Ziflow as well. And so looking at this platform, you're probably thinking this isn't Ziflow, this is Monday.com. And what I'm looking at is a project board inside of Monday. I can see there's some assets that are maybe been accepted as requests, they're in production, there's some project management specific fields that are filled in already. And if I'm maybe the designer or the project manager that's assigned to route these assets out for review, I have these images ready to go. Instead of going to Ziflow and connecting back to Monday, what I do is click into this images task and it opens up the Ziflow proofing window. Now, if there were proofs attached to this already, I'd see them listed. In this case, I'll create a proof. And there's only a couple steps I need to do. You've all created proofs before. You know how this works. You drop in your files, you combine them or create separate proofs. You add your workflow template and maybe drop in a brief template as well. And then you hit create. And now when I hit create, not only have I created these proofs right out of the application that I'm spending all day in doing my project management tasks, it's also now going to work for me in the form of uploading assets, sharing them for review, and then we'll see this trickle back into Monday.com in the form of updates in these columns on the right-hand side. And so we'll see this start to happen. A couple different proofs have been created, and all these details are being filled in as we speak.
So all of this happened relatively instantaneously, and I noticed that you didn't switch tabs at all. It just all happened within Monday.com.
All happened for me right within Monday.com. We'll see those automations happen in the mirrored columns on the right now, updating statuses and saving information about the deadlines. Keep that mirrored columns idea in mind as well. We'll go back to that in a second. And then to take this a step further, if I'm maybe the creative director, or maybe I'm the project manager that sees that maybe some changes have come back in the form of a request, I don't have to leave Monday to review that. I can click up top to one of these tabs where we've basically taken that gallery view and embedded it right into Monday.com. I can see I've got this proof that was created, the Scotland one that was uploaded. I can start now marking this up with my feedback and then making that decision and having that trickle back into Monday.
Still haven't switched tabs, Mike. You still haven't
switched tabs. All there. Now, the nice thing about this, you'll see I've got the proofs to review. I've also got a rejected proofs tab, and this is going to show me proofs that have been marked as changes required. We can kind of sort and choose what information is being displayed in these different boards. Kind of like how on the dashboard, you can create different views. We can do that through Monday as well. And admin, when they're adding these tabs to these boards, they can go into the settings and say, hey, I want this to show all proofs where my decision's ending and the status is changes required. Maybe I just want to see the ones where my decision's pending, things like that. We're able to really customize and craft this in a way that just presents the proofs and the data on the board that makes the most sense to you.
And we're actually adding to that customized view menu as early as next week. You'll be able to customize that tab to be canvas view as opposed to gallery view. So even more customizations coming in the near future.
Yeah, not uncommon for a campaign to be run out of one project board. You'll then be able to see all the assets that are part of that campaign right in one tab in here to get the kind of good view of everything that's happening there. Now we've covered kind of the how this is actually put into play, how we create the proofs and the updates that happen in Monday. In terms of how this actually happens, it's all tied back to two things: a Ziflow proofs board template that can be added inside of Monday.com, and then powered by flow templates that are set up really easily inside of Ziflow. And so you'll see on the left, I've got this Ziflow proofs preview board, and this is showing me all of the proofs that are currently a part of my account across Monday. So I've got a bunch of boards in here. I've got proofs that are on different boards, all kind of brought together into this one central proofing focus board here. This is showing me all the data we saw: the status, the version number, deadline, active stage, which is really useful because that data can be taken and put into play into dashboards. So I can see, hey, all the proof statuses that are in the account, or what type of assets or deadlines that are approaching. And so I can kind of correlate this and bring it all into one place. And then from that proofs board, these columns that we have, those are just getting mirrored back into here. And so I set this proof board up once, I mirror this column back to the boards that were being created, maybe from a template, and that data starts showing up in here. Now, the setup for this, we've got some great resources on how to actually manage and create all this. I will say it is all set up inside of Ziflow for those updates to get sent over. And the way we're doing it is through these flow templates inside of Ziflow Connect. And so what you would do is you'd come in here, you'd set up your flow templates, you'd choose that Ziflow proofs board, and then this is automatically going to build 6 workflow templates for you or connection templates for you that will fire off those updates back into Monday. And this is done basically all the work I need to do to update any board with any information using mirrored columns and flow templates automatically, and we can then replicate that really quickly. If I create a new board in Monday, instead of having to spend the time to rebuild all the flows inside of Ziflow, it's just adding those mirrored columns to this board. And this is something that we'll see starting getting put into play with other applications, Asana, ClickUp, Wrike, being able to add flow templates to just auto-generate all the connectors we need to make sure that the project management tools we're using every day are being accurately updated with information from Ziflow proofing in a really easy and efficient way of setup.
I love this. This is fantastic. Not only just the be able to use Ziflow inside of Monday.com, but also, as we're exploring this notion of flow templates, which we will eventually extend to other project management tools, to ease in setup and ease in the creation of low-code automation. And one thing I do want to note that while what Mike just showed you may not look like your own creative process powered by Monday.com, don't worry. There are myriad ways to customize Ziflow's integration to meet your team's needs, both visually and through the use of automation. Speaking of automation, as I mentioned at the top of that section, that theme, we work with a whole host of other integration partners, whether it be creative tools like Adobe Creative Cloud, Final Cut Pro, or cloud storage, cloud storage tools, Dropbox, Google Drive, SharePoint, and other project management tools. So within this theme, let's talk a little bit about how we've made some changes to the user interface, the user experience of integration properties for a couple of those other project management tools, making it easier to associate a proof with a task in one of those tools.
Yeah. So if you've used integration properties at all in the past, couple of years now that they've been out, you've always seen it through the lens of I'm in Ziflow, I'm creating my proof, I'm adding my brief, adding my workflow, and then I'm going into the integration section and I'm searching for a workspace and then a project and then a task, which works pretty well if you don't have a super high volume of content within here. But those situations where maybe you have a project board with 8,000 different tasks on it, searching for it isn't always the quickest. Sometimes it's easier to just copy and paste a link to that task directly in here. And so that's what we've done for Asana, for ClickUp, for Monday, Jira, as well as Basecamp with Wrike and Trello on the way. What I can do is go in here. I can go to the task I want to send updates to. I can copy that link out of the tool. And then when I paste that link in here, what we'll see is this is going to search for this task and I'm now connected. I'm good to go. It's linked up. I go and create this. It fires off those updates over to Asana for me or whatever tool I'm using. Just a really easy way for me to get those integration properties linked together as we're going through here and building these out.
So you could not only do that during the process of creating a proof associated to a task, but then also click into proof details once the proof's created and associate it just as easily as copying and pasting a URL or even a task ID.
Exactly. I just jump in, paste that in, that's associated, and then that's going to allow us to do all those fun updates, update the status view automatically, drop in a comment maybe when decisions come in to that associated task, and just kind of keep things up to date as we progress through that approval process. Yeah.
I love it. Currently available for Asana, ClickUp, Monday.com, Jira, Basecamp with Wrike and Trello on the way. Now, when you are working within Ziflow Connect, you are more than likely working within something that we call Zybots, which is low-code automation. And over these past 3 months, we've delivered a couple of other pretty nice updates to our integrations and automation theme. For example, the ability to customize Zybot step names. So as you're building something much more complex, a complex flow where you reach out and get an ID and bring it back into that flow, you can customize the name of each of those steps to add much more clarity to when you're building something a bit more complex. Speaking of building things more complex, sometimes you need to reference a previous step by using the step ID number. You can now see those Zybot step numbers as you hover over that step as you're building out that flow. And we've also added more events and triggers within Ziflow Connect. And all of this is born from customer feedback. We have heard your calls for more capabilities here. So we've added a proof trashed or restored event. We've added a proof in preparation trigger for the new proof event. And we've added the review completed and decision reverted triggers for the decision update event. Again, all leaning towards adding greater flexibility because we know how complex your flows can be, and we want to make sure that our automation engine, Ziflow Connect, can handle those that complexity. Now, let's dive in a little bit into some of the enterprise-grade collaborative proofing features that we delivered over these past 3 some odd months. The first thing being more security settings for those of you who deal with very heavily regulated assets. That is to say that if you have people that need to leave electronic signatures, sometimes your protocols say they have to leave a token or a credential, log in every single time. So there's now a setting at an admin level that you can basically say for 0 minutes, they have to log in every time they need to sign an asset. Or you can set that to 15, 30, an hour or 2 hours if necessary. Another admin level setting, you can set the default proof viewer mode, dark mode or light mode, depending on what you feel your company's preferences should be. So for new reviewers you provision, or for new people who access proof viewer for the first time, they can be, the default can be light mode as opposed to what the current default is, which is dark mode. They can always change it on their own within their own settings, but you can now set what that default experience can be. Last but not least, on the slideware stuff, before we get to the future and the most exciting stuff, is improved video processing. So we know so many of the companies we work with, in-house creative teams, marketing teams, agencies, they are pivoting to video. So we need to be able to process videos faster. We've done some internal testing and taken videos of similar size and scope, and we've discovered they've processed within Ziflow 50% faster than they had in the past. A very high quality update we released in Q4 of last year, and people are really excited about this. So like I said, let's talk through some of the future forward stuff that we've got going on, and John, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Erik. Well, I'm excited to be letting everyone know that we are in the final stages of releasing the updates to our CSV exports. So this has been a highly requested feature on our ideas board, and we'll talk a little bit more about ideas board in a moment, that you want access to more data from Ziflow. So today, of course, you can export a proof list, which will give you information about each individual proof. But it's lacking more details if you want to dive into stages or reviewers and decisions people are making, turnaround time it takes them to make those decisions, or even full access to the entire comments transcript. So this is exactly what we've been working on here on our CSV export. We are later this month, it will be available in private preview. So if you are interested in that, we'll be reaching out to people who have registered their interest through the ideas board. So ideas.ziflow.com, please go there. There's an advanced analytics section. Put your name in there for interest in that capability. There's also a section around CSV exports specifically too. So register your interest in it so then we can reach out to you. We know we've already got lots and lots of interest in this capability, and we want to make it available to people. If you think about how you can use this, one big thing is understanding turnaround time. Another one is more text analysis of comments to look for common themes in those comments. And we want to give you access to all the data so you can then pull out all the insights that you might want to pull out. But just to give you a sense of what could be accomplished, what I want to do is just show you a quick little concept that we put together using a BI tool. We happen to do it in Tableau. You could do this in Power BI. You could do it in Excel and Google Sheets, whatever your favorite data analytics tool is, and looking at turnaround time across proofs, stages, and reviewers. So with proofs, what this chart here shows us is how many proofs were actually completed in a month by month. And this is data pulled from a sample environment, or from a real environment, but a sample environment, showing how many proofs were actually executed each month, and then what was their end result in the status that they ended up, either approved with changes, or changes required. So that's what this top chart is really focusing on here. So you can see 12 months worth of data. And what this is now, what we're starting to look at is what's the turnaround time from version 1 to version complete. Doesn't matter how many versions you go through. And you can see in this environment, each of these little dots is actually an individual proof and how long it took to get to its final stage. And this is measured in days in this case. And you can see down here at the 6 here, this is showing our median line. So it took about 6 days. 50% of proofs took more than 6 days. 50% of proofs took less than 6 days in order to get to full approval. But if you look up here in November, we can see, wow, there's this really weird spike where the median time was 41 days. Now, if we go down further, we actually have details about how many versions did these each take. And you can see some of these versions took some of these proofs took 14, 13 versions to iterate through. So it's not so much that the review process, the individual decisions took longer. What it actually just meant is that it went through a lot more iterations. So giving you some really interesting insights. And again, we're giving you access to all of this raw data, so then you can do the analysis you need for your own environment. So that's for proofs. Something similar also for stages. These are like the individual decisions that that people need to make in order to get to a stage being approved. So you can see that, the number of decisions that were being reviewed here, or the number of stages that were being executed here. Again, each of these little dots is a stage and how long it took to get to a final decision, where this is the turnaround time, this time measured in hours. So we can see the median here only took 5.7 hours to actually complete a stage, which is great. We can also see how many reviewers were included on that stage. Typically in this environment, there's like 2 to 4 reviewers. So these bands are quartiles here. So about 2 to 4 reviewers, but sometimes it included as much as 9 reviewers. And that's not uncommon. I know some of you can have dozens of reviewers or even more in some cases. Now we can drill down to the actual reviewer statistics. How are your reviewers actually doing? So we actually have a sample here of 3 different reviewers. So each of these bars here are the number of decisions that they've actually made. Each of these dots are how long it took them to make that decision. So you can see this specific decision here took about 60 hours or so to make. But this reviewer, who was a business stakeholder, they're really on the ball. They're super fast in making these decisions, where their median decision time is actually 3 hours. I'm sure many of you out there would love to get feedback and decisions made in 3 hours. This view down here is an executive who wasn't necessarily involved in a lot of decisions early on and sort of had sporadic decision-making time, then clearly got involved in some projects near the end of doing lots of rapid decision or many decisions, maybe taking a little while to make those decisions. But as we've seen, a lot of versions actually happened earlier on in that time. And then here we have a creative ops person who got very active, was very, very responsive, and then was less involved in a big project here at the end of the year. So just some really interesting insights that you can pull out of all of these details. So that's one big view of just some interesting insights that you can gain from 3 or 4 CSV files that will be available. Please do go to the ideas board if you're interested in getting access to this private preview. We'd love to hear about the analytics questions that you want to answer and how you want to work with this data. 2 other features here that are coming up in the roadmap is around out of office and delegation. We're actually going to split those into 2 separate features, where out of office will allow your users to be able to say, hey, I'm out of office between these periods. So anytime someone sees them, they mention or they get added to a proof, or you're looking at their status, their out of office status will actually be showing up right there. Delegation we're going to be working on later on in the year. So when someone goes out of office, they can mark someone to actually delegate their decisions and their comments too. Super valuable though, to just help you keep your projects moving along and making sure when people are out, the proof managers know that they're actually out and they can then delegate as appropriate. Another feature, which we're also excited about, and it was asked about in the comments, is, hey, whatever happened to PDF comment import? We are working on that this year. We're in the process of soliciting more feedback from users around that. So if you are interested in it, please make sure you've marked your interest in the ideas board. And if we haven't reached out to you already, we will be reaching out to you more over the coming weeks as we get into the detailed design part of this project. Still TBD on when we're going to be releasing this. We're just gathering some input. This capability is super valuable if you're working in a world where you have to consume comments from PDFs. Obviously, we believe that all of your comments and your feedback should be done right in Ziflow. It is the most effective place to provide comments. But in some cases, you need to transition comments between 2 different systems, especially if you're in the healthcare system and you're working with something like a Viva, and you need to be able to have comments recorded in a PDF in Viva. You want to get those comments placed into Ziflow. Being able to import those comments is valuable. So we see this as a nice little utility for some of you who have to work with PDF comments. And it sisters up nicely with the capability we released last year, of course, allowing you to take a PDF and export all the comments and export the PDF with all the comments in place and markup related to it. So if you're interested, please make sure you register your interest on our ideas board.
Gosh, we've got so many questions happening right now in the Q&A, at least almost 30 having been answered thus far by our team of minions who are manning the Q&A. We very much appreciate that and keep those questions coming. One of those questions was in fact about the ability to import comments from a PDF, and looks like that's been asked and answered. So excited about that. We rolled out Ziflow AI, the ability to interact with AI inside Ziflow's Proof Viewer many, many months ago. And it's been very, very cool. The opportunity to sort of ask AI to help you collaborate and provide better feedback to a designer, or get together with your collaborators to say, what's a better headline for this website? So we are no strangers to AI, and in fact, if you caught the typo on one of our slides earlier in the presentation, we included the word AI into the word aggregate where it does not belong. So let's talk about adding more AI to the product, and John's got some exciting future forward-thinking slides about that topic specifically.
Excellent. Thanks, Erik. So when you think about Ziflow today, what we really focus on is helping you automate your proof management. How do you route it? How do you get it, all the statuses connected into your PM tools? How do you make sure the right people get added into the review process? So we focus about automating the proof management. Where we're moving with AI is to allow you to automate more of the review and approval process and turn some of that review and approval process over to AI. But the basis of that is you've got to know, what do you want to actually review in a proof? What are some of the things that need to be checked for in a proof? So before I dive into the details about AI, I want to introduce this concept of checklists, which we've had on our roadmap for a while now, that we're now actively working on and will be hopefully having in private preview in Q2 of this year. So checklists are a way for you to really standardize more of your review process. You can capture individual checks that people need to do, so you can really streamline the collaboration between different teams and ultimately really enhance your compliance and your transparency, because now every check that is done is logged, who did it, when they did it. And so if there's any issues that come up, you can see exactly what the history is of the actual checks that were done. So it gives you a structured way to be able to work in your environment. So what I thought I'd do, just to put some details to this capability, is I wanted to just do a quick walkthrough of the prototype of the way that checklists are going to work. So I'm in the settings view here. I'm going to go into create checklist. Again, this is a click-through prototype. This isn't available in the product yet, but this is where we're going from a design point of view. So I can create a checklist. You'll notice I can put in a name, description. I can have different sections across with that checklist. I can then have a name for the check that I want to be done. I can have descriptions on it. I can even have a checkbox. Do I just want to check it off like it's a pre-flight check? Or do I actually want to mark as a check if this actively passed or this failed? So I filled out this whole checklist here. You'll see the different groups. I've got visual, I've got content checks that I want to be able to do. And now I'm ready to go and I can create that checklist. So you can see I've got my content review checklist created here. So now let's go apply that to a proof. So I'm going to go into the proof. I can now add a set of reviewers here. You'll notice I've got my section here under checklists. I could also include these checklists in a workflow template, so I don't have to keep adding them each time. I can go into add checklist, grab my content review checklist, and now that checklist is assigned to that stage. So you can have different stages, can have different checklists, and you'll also be able to add multiple checklists to different stages as well. So let's go add some content here. Going to drag and drop a file into this. So now the proof is ready to go, and now I'm going to create the proof. And then I'm going to you can see here, I've got my my new ad that's here. So now let's flip over to the reviewer experience, because from a proof manager or proof creator point of view, I'm kind of done what I need to have done. So now I'm over in the review experience. You can see now you've got a content checklist here embedded into this view. And you can see we've set these up as pass-fail checks. So it's got an image. Yep, I'm going to check this. Colors and branding are consistent. I'm noticing this logo is actually an inconsistent logo here. So I'm actually going to fail this. When I fail it, I can actually create a comment that is associated with that check. So it now gives you context for the comments that you're actually providing. So I'm gonna put in my comments here. Please replace this logo. I'm gonna post that. And so now I have this comment associated to what actually failed. So now I can go through, I can complete the rest of the checks. You'll notice I'm completing the visual section. Down the content section, I've got a couple of colleagues that are passing and failing. But because I failed one of these checks, I'm going to go make a decision. And optionally, this can be configured to say, don't allow someone to approve if something has actually failed in the checks. So I have to mark this as changes required. So you can see how we can use checklists as a structured way of determining what needs to be checked, to be able to help you really bring some nice guidance to the review process and making sure that everything is taken care of. But the checklists also define really what needs to be checked. So if this, oh, it's also worth noting too, you can obviously expand in each of these checks and be able to have more details about them as well. Now, if this capability is interesting to you, again, I can't promote the ideas board enough. We do pay a lot of attention to that, and it's been a great success for us with lots of incoming input, and it's really allowed us to bring the things that are most valuable to most of you, really bring those forward and prioritize those on our roadmap. So if this idea of a checklist is helpful to you, please go into ideas.ziflow.com, register your interest there, and then when we get to the point of getting into our preview mode with it, you'll be one of the early access participants within checklists. Now, this section was all about AI as Erik introduced it. So let me just bring back a quick animation here that we talked about in last time to just illustrate this idea of what we're thinking about with Review AI. First feature under the Review AI banner is automating checklists. So I've got version 1. It goes through Review AI. So there's a check that needs to be run, and it's checking for a disclaimer. Oh, there's no disclaimer here. All right, so it fails. So then the designer now adds a disclaimer, uploads version 2, goes, checks, and just see actually how it works. So that's the idea that we have with Review AI, is that instead of using having to have a human go through those individual checklists, we're actually going to be able to use AI to go through those checklists. So a couple updates since we've showed this since the last time. First is we've had a very successful early access program, and we continue to run that program with more of you participating in it. The first case study that I want to bring up. So this is a Fortune 500 tech company, very large scale, working with their brand specialists and their events team, and really processing PDF and static images. That's where we're starting with Review AI. What were the successes here? So we processed over 2,000 assets were auto reviewed. Close to 1/3 of those were automatically reviewed. The way they had this set up was they wanted to have people, basically the AI would check it. If the AI failed it and said this doesn't pass, before auto failing it, it needed to route over to a human to look at it. But if it was auto approved, then they could auto approve the asset and carry forward with their workflow. And we did that with 98% accuracy. So this was our first large scale test and had a really great degree of success with it, to the point where the participant here says, AI's review intelligence, Review AI's intelligence in spotting and flagging issues in visual aspects was more impressive and made our reviews more efficient than ever. They went on to say that they were really stunned on how Review AI streamlined the proofing process, automating nearly 3/4 of the review work, as I had mentioned, and saving them countless hours. And again, this was something working with us as part of our early access program. It's really a collaborative experience where we need to see what kind of assets you want to review, what kind of checks do you want to do, and we work back and forth and experiment together on this. So that's great. I showed you those animations. We've seen that a few months ago. Here's a case study. Now let me show you actually this running live in production here. So I'm just going to bring over Ziflow here. So I've got this set up here. I've just got a proof set up with version 1 here of a spring buy one, get one offer ad. And you can see I've got a reviewer here called Review AI. So I'm just going to go create this proof itself, and then we're going to go take a look at this. Now, this is in processing right now, so we're just uploading the asset, preparing it. And so now what's actually happening, you'll see this Review AI stage is kicked off, and you'll see this Review AI is actually set as a decision maker. So they haven't made any decisions yet. They've got, right now in the back end, we're actually processing using Ziflow Connect, some flows, processing with our AI agents. And now you can see here, Review AI has actually gone and made a bunch of comments and actually then determined that this has failed. So let's open this guy up in Proof Viewer, and we can see here's each of the tests that were run. So was there a clear and obvious call to action? Yep, it detected that there's this learn more button. Then is there a clear and obvious message that can be understood quickly? Yep, it's bringing up, Botanical Garden Shops, BOGO event. So it's noticing that. Was there a disclaimer in place? Oh, no, that failed. There actually was no disclaimer in place. So now what I could do is I could go and just go create a new version. And so by going and creating a new version, I could just add my files, add a new file here. I'm going to drop in our version 2. And then we're going to open that up. And then I can just run the process again. Now, I have that set up already here where I'm just going to go down to my review AI samples. And you can see this one's processing. I'm going to bring up one that I've processed already with version 2. And if we turn into compare mode here, we can see with version 2, I'm going to go and turn on my comments here. We can see review AI, this check of, is there a disclaimer in place? Yep. In the bottom right corner, the image includes a small but visible disclaimer. So you can see the disclaimer here. So last time we presented you guys some slides and some animations in Google Slides to illustrate what we were talking about. Here it is running live in production. We've processed thousands of assets with this as part of our early access program, and we'd love to have more of you participate in that early access program. And if we want to think about what this looks like in the end result, we combine the checklists, being able to allow us to automate those checklists, and then being able to have comments auto added based on what AI has actually detected. So now you can see how comments and AI and review AI go together with checklists, comments, and review AI. So pretty exciting next steps for us here. The next piece that we want to talk about in terms of going forward, and we shared this in our last webinar too, is this concept of change verification. Okay, great. I've got version 2, but now I want to do a human review on it after AI has done some checks on it. Now there's some creative concepts that are added in here. Add a sun, make the logo look larger. So now the designer's gone and done that. A lot of the time that you spend reviewing is spending verifying the changes that were actually made. What if you could turn that over to AI and have them double check that it actually works? So first of all, review AI is going to run through your automated checklist, make sure nothing's actually broken or nothing has regressed. Then it will run through the actual review AI for change verifications and checking, hey, we wanted you to add a sun. Did you do that? Did you make the logo larger? Yep, those changes were actually applied. So that's the next step now where we're moving towards around this idea of change verification. So you've got review AI, automated checklists, got review AI, change verifications. So if this program seems interesting to you, I know we've had lots of interest and we're looking for more people to continue to participate in it. The more assets that we can review and the more live feedback that we can get on that, the better we can make the AI. So please sign up for this. If you want to grab the QR code, feel free to sign up now. The link will also be in our follow-up email. So Erik, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Like I said earlier, we have had a bunch of questions already answered live by the folks who are on the ones and twos working behind the scenes. Mike, I want to put you on the spot for a second. Monica S. had asked about CSV exports or data export for CSV, where that can actually be extracted from within the product. So we will be releasing those additional CSV exports. It's in a private preview in our next release. So ideally, we'll have that in public preview as we get very, very early into Q2. But where will you actually be able to export the CSV from within the product itself? Mike, could you show us how that works?
Yeah, so I think right now you would go to the dashboard. And so that's going to give you all your filtering options. Of course, you sort and decide what information you want actually shown on the dashboard. And then you go ahead and grab that export to CSV button there.
Got it. So within that,
Erik, it's just worth noting too and I didn't highlight this on some of these additional exports that we have that it's available or it's coming available on our enterprise package. It's also right now will only be available to administrators in your environment since we're allowing you to export comments and there's depending on the sensitivity of the data. So you need to have elevated permissions to get access to the entirety of the data.
Awesome. John, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you can switch back. A question from Paige. Will you be able to select which comments from reviewers are verified for change verification? Sometimes we have reviewers who comment things and ask for changes, but doesn't always have the final say. Will checklist provide some level of verification sort of by somebody who is overlooking or overwatching that type of a thing?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And one why we want to have more of this early access is like, how do we get the details as to how we can have AI working alongside in a really assistive way for you? So I think what we want to be able to do is get to that point. The question is like, what does the process look like to determine whose changes should actually be made, right? And how do you currently do that as people are making comments? Does someone go through and tag comments like, yes, we're going to do this, no, we're not going to do that? And that's where we want to talk with more of you to just understand how your process works. And like I said, how can AI then work alongside you with that? So join the early access program and we'd love to discuss it further.
Mike, can you back up one slide for me? Because the way to get to that early access program is right there. So those of you who are hanging on towards the end of this webinar, go ahead and get out your phone and scan that QR code, because we would love more of that type of feedback, more of those types of questions within our early access program. Last question that we'll take live. Monique asks, is Project Mosaic launched right now within Ziflow, or is it coming? I think we can all generally answer that. Project Mosaic was the sort of the umbrella name for the initiative, being able to see everything and approve anything. Gallery View has been released, a whole host of updates made there. Canvas View is now in public preview, so you can switch over from Gallery View to Canvas View right now. John just mentioned during that section, we are working on the ability to manage and handle large sets of proofs. And if you want to access Gallery View right now, just simply go to any folder from within Ziflow and click on the review button in that context menu when you right click, and that will pop open Gallery View just as if you would access it via Proof Viewer. And then you can switch to Canvas View just like that. Well, it's time to bring this thing in for a landing, Mike. Let's go over to our FYI slide. We are so excited to present these webinars each and every quarter, and we always want to leave you with a call to action. So please go to our Help Center and our support portal. In our Help Center, you'll find the Winter 2025 webinar recap article with links to relevant articles within the Help Center based on all of the stuff we've discussed. Our support portal, which we launched back in January, has been such a resounding success, with the ability for users to be able to file tickets and see their progress, be able to track which questions they had asked in the past. So please continue to access that support portal. It's been fantastic thus far. You can also access our YouTube channel. So you're going to find a ton of amazing content there, and so much more content coming soon, including a recording of this webinar that you can share with your colleagues. We are a SaaS company, but we very much believe in the other capital S, which is service. Our customer support managers are amazing. And if you want to speak with them, just email them directly or email us at customer.success@ziflow.com, or schedule a time to meet with one at ziflow.com. Schedule a call. Speaking of our customer success team, there are so many more ways to learn about what it is we're doing here at Ziflow. First things first, it is our In the Flow newsletter. You can sign up right now at ziflow.com/blog. At the bottom of that screen, you can sign up for our newsletter if you haven't already. We release this once a month, packed with interesting factoids about what's going on within creative operations, as well as links to our Help Center with all of our feature release notes for key features we've released over that past month. The second thing, access to those aforementioned customer success managers. We do customer office hours every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. You can sign up at ziflow.com/office-hours, where they go over particular topics, dive deep, and allow for you to have some more of a Q&A. So really exciting opportunities there with Ziflow's customer office hours. Last thing, and this is a big announcement, and I'm excited to make it, Ziflow Academy. We will be rolling out on-demand, video-based training this spring of 2025. You will be able to access it with a Ziflow login and be able to go through a multitude of sessions, be able to learn exactly how to use Ziflow. So if you're an admin and you're bringing on a new creative operations specialist, or you're bringing on a new reviewer, you can send them videos to Ziflow Academy where they can learn exactly how to utilize this tool to the best of their ability, really get into the weeds, into the nuts and bolts of what makes Ziflow work. And that, my friends, is the ball game. This has been our Winter 2025 product release webinar, perhaps the best one yet. We cannot thank you enough for attending, and we're stoked to speak to you again later on this year. On behalf of Mike Hrymak and John Stetic, my name is Erik Mansur, Head of Product Marketing for Ziflow, and I encourage you to have a sparkling day. Thanks so much for attending. We'll talk